Welcome to the AI Edge for Enterprise Leaders. This is the show where we go beyond the buzzwords to have real conversations with leaders at the forefront of their industry about what's working, what's changing, and how AI is being used to drive results. I'm your host, Chakaya, CEO of Achieve and Believe Consulting, where we provide AI solutions to help improve your business outcomes. Today, we're diving into practical insights, real challenges, and honest perspectives on how AI is being used to shape your business and industry. Joining us today, we have Dion Lisle, Chief Revenue Officer of Remark. So we'll dive right in. My first question to you is, can you share with our viewers about your role, your industry, the company size, if you know the company size, and how AI is showing up for you currently every day at work, if at all?
Great. Thank you for that introduction. Yeah, Dion Lisle, I'm a longtime fintech leader. I bill myself as the Rosetta Stone between innovation and institutions because a lot of time institutions get caught up and don't know how to move forward. I try to fill in that gap. I work with a number of fintech startups. I act as CRO, Chief Revenue Officer of Remark, a very interesting blockchain-based company. But I also advise other companies in what's called the CFO stack, AR, AP, working capital. And so I've got kind of a really high level general view, but I also have some detailed views as well and how AI is impacting. And really interesting time right now in AI for financial services. It's impacting everything, like every industry. But I think what I'm seeing the most is that banks and FIs have not done enough homework on their data plans, schematics, and et cetera. And it's hard to move to AI when your data lake is a mess, right? If your data lake's a pond scum, you're not going to have very good outcomes. And so I advise a lot of banks, FIs, and others to really focus on the data layer first, get your data in order, then you can layer on a lot of AI tools and outcomes.
And I know you mentioned you work as an advisor to different companies, and so the main company you work as a chief revenue officer at that the main company that you work as a chief revenue officer, do you know the company size of that company?
Yeah, Remark is a small company. We're pre-funding. We're fundraising now. We're about 12 people. I'm acting as CRO, and the founder Jeremy, great young entrepreneur. And basically, he came to this from a technology perspective with a couple friends. And we're now looking at product market fit, and we have some interesting applications in what's called dual use or
Mhm.
defense plus commercial. And the commercial side of that is for banks to do what's called tokenized deposits, and I'll tie that into AI in a little bit. But it's
Mhm.
basically tokenization of all assets. And for all of your watchers, readers, listeners, the fact is there were two big trends in 24, 25 for financial services. Stable coins or tokenization and AI or agentic commerce. And we'll dive into those. And they do overlap quite a bit, actually.
Hmm. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that information. Um, and I guess this kind of ties into that. This question, this next question kind of will hopefully tie some of that together. What exact services does Remark offer, and what does a typical day look like for you in that specific role?
Yeah, so what we're trying to do is get banks to recognize very high level that stable coins, which is getting a lot of press, a lot of ink spilled on stable coins, are not actually good for banks because it takes deposits out of the system. Tokenized deposits, which is where Remark comes in, delivers a much better solution for banks because it keeps money in the banking system. And so there's this bit of TradFi, as it's called, traditional finance, and DeFi, decentralized finance. There's a bit of a balancing act there. I think both will become common and useful for different use cases. And that's the other bit. Anyone looking at AI, any new technology, always look at the use case first. Because if you can't tell a customer, whether it's B2B or B2C, what they're going to do with this new tool, you're going to fall flat. So use case is really where you want to start, regardless of the underlying technology.
And so, what does that look like in your specific role, like day to day? What does a typical day look like from you from beginning to end?
Boy, I wish I had a typical day, if I'm honest. But basically, it's running around and testing thesis. Like, hey, banker, here's an idea. Have you considered this? No, we really haven't. Let's try it. Hey, banker, here's another idea. Hey, what are your customers asking for? And so my day is really made up of research, looking at all the industry trends, all the reports, BCG, McKinsey, all the usual suspects. And then looking at, well, what do those trends mean to our future partners, clients, customers, the banks, right? And then go one level further, who are bank customers? Now, there's the consumer side. I focus more on B2B, CFO stack. So I'm looking much more at what are CFOs looking at? What are treasurers looking at? How are corporates moving money, handling money, and what tools can help them do that better?
Okay. And so what major shifts in which we already talked about 2024,
Yeah.
2025 that you're seeing in your industry and how has that impacted your business personally?
Yeah, so it's changed a lot. I have said, so I've been in payments for 20 years. The last two have had more change than the last 15, and the
Mhm.
next two will have more than the last 10. Right now, there's a trend in, and it does impact all of the what we're talking about. It's called agentic commerce. And agentic commerce is where an AI agent goes out and does stuff on your behalf. Sounds great at the high level, but when you double click on it, how did you identify me, right?
Mhm.
Jakaya, I know I have too many subscriptions that I don't even know about, and I get these bills for $20 a month for something I never signed up for. Well, wait a
Yeah.
minute. If you now go to agentic commerce, how is that going to get better? It's going to get worse. It's going to spiral very quickly, and we need a way to unwind these transactions. So backing up just a second, agentic commerce is where you assign an AI agent to go do something for you. I'm a medium shirt. I like gray and blue. Go find me medium shirts in gray and blue. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm not sure I want that automated. Like, and
Yeah.
so now there's this bit in my world of fintech and payments where agentic commerce is going to go do stuff for you. Not sure I wanted to do all that for me. I don't know how automated I need my shopping experience, right? But that is the bulk of AI conversation in my world of fintech and banking right now is agentic commerce. What does it mean? How do we prevent it spiraling? And where does it go from here?
But what does that look like specifically in your industry? Like what would that agent go do for you? Like what is an example?
So I have a bit of a hot take. And my hot take is this. In B2C, it's useless, in my humble opinion. I don't need automated shopping. The 8 minutes it takes me to go on Amazon and buy something I need or thought of, I'm fine with that. Now in B2B, I think it's brilliant because a procurement agent, and let's just talk about CFO stack for a minute. CFO stack is accounts receivable, accounts payable, working capital, procurement, payroll, etc.
Hmm.
Those tasks need some automation and they're predictable enough that automation would help.
Hmm.
Which brings us to the other point of what is agentic, what is automation? So I worked in something called RPA a short time ago, robotic process automation. That is where a software program pushes a button for you. Like it literally just looks at a program and pushes a button. Agentic is actually making decisions for you. Are we ready to outsource decisions? In
Mm.
B2C, I don't know about you, but I'm not like Christmas just came and went, had a wonderful Christmas, bought my family gifts. They bought me gifts. Great. Do I want to automate that? Should I automate that? I'm not sold. I don't think so. Now,
Yeah.
B2B, okay, if I'm a CFO and I have a small staff of 6 people and they're overworked and underpaid, and an agent can go procure screws and bolts for our manufacturing facility, okay, that makes some more sense to me. Right. So that's the bifurcation in my world of B2B versus B2C that I see coming with agentic commerce.
Okay. Thanks for that clarification, especially for our viewers if you're watching this and you're not sure what AI is or you're not sure what agentic is, like any of these things, the explanations definitely help. So what right now would you say is working well for you and what's been frustrating when it comes to AI or just like day to day in your specific role?
I think the most frustrating thing is when I talk to large, medium banks and they don't have a data strategy yet. I'm like, wow, really? Data's not that new. Like, we've been at this a minute. Like, we've spent millions, if not billions of dollars trying to fix data lakes and data streams, this, that, and the other. And yet, a lot of large FIs have piecemealed together a data strategy. And what you find a lot in large banks, honestly, are silos. Like The credit card group doesn't share data with the debit group, which doesn't share data with the DDA or checking group. And you're like, wait a minute, I'm one customer. How do you not have a single view of me? How are you going to overlay AI when there are three different data silos? That doesn't make sense, right? And you've seen, we've all seen it. We've gotten emails from our bank that act like they just met us.
Yeah.
A friend of mine the other day said, I got a happy birthday card from my dry cleaner. My bank doesn't even send me a birthday card. How does the dry cleaner know me better than the bank? Like, honestly, these are large transactions. These are large relationships.
Yeah.
Maybe, hopefully, AI agentic can help us close that gap. But right
Mhm.
now, that gap's really big.
Yeah. And what would you say is working well for you?
I think the biggest thing, and I'll stay on AI here for a moment. I looked at a company years ago when I was at First Data Ventures, and I looked at investing in a company called Feedzai. They've been around
Mhm.
for 12 years, 14 years. They've been using AI out of a university in Portugal called Coimbra, where they developed this AI years ago. And we were using, and I'll air quote AI, it was kind of rules based, but kind of AI, but now is full AI,
Yeah.
where they're able to look at fraud and prevent bad transactions from happening, right?
Mhm.
And we've all gotten the fraud notification. Hey, Citibank, did you just do a large transaction at Home Depot? I'm like, no, I did not. Stop, right?
Yeah.
That's all rules based. That's been around forever. There's an old system called Falcon that's been in banking for easily 20 plus years.
Hmm.
But now it can actually more intelligently be like, oh, Dion's traveling now. So this transaction at an airport in Minneapolis is okay.
Hmm.
But the same system will be like, wait a minute, Dion's traveling. He just flew through Minneapolis. We can see his itinerary. But wait a minute, he never buys at a Best Buy when he's traveling. Why is
Yeah.
there a Best Buy transaction in Minneapolis? There isn't. That's fraud, right? These are the kind of if then, more complex than that, but if then statements that allow the bank to go, whoa, 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 that's out of bounds. That's not cool. Let's put a stop to that, right?
Yeah.
This is where I've already seen AI add tremendous value.
Yeah. I I agree. I definitely agree. And so what metrics right now in your industry are you currently focused on improving? Because I know you mentioned being frustrated with the banks and their data. So
Yeah,
what are there any specific metrics that you're focused on right now?
I love the question. I want to get there. We're not ready for KPIs on AI. We just need to do stuff. Just do stuff like build, test, iterate, keep moving. But what's called PMF or product market fit in my world, we're
Hmm.
not there yet. Like we know AI is useful, no question. We know AI is going to change the way commerce works. Good enough. But do we know if MCP, the new protocol for context around AI, is going to be the winner? No, I don't know. And there are new announcements, and you and I both know this. We read all the stuff. It's like drinking from a fire hose. I don't know which announcements are super important and which ones aren't, right? Not yet. So I would caution my friends in finance world, don't use KPIs, don't use ROI yet, just do stuff. Just keep doing stuff. We will find the right use case, we will find the right ROI, but probably not even in 2026, honestly. It'll probably be further out before we actually say, I invested 100 million in AI and it paid back a billion. We're a
Yeah.
ways off from that, quite honestly.
Yeah, no, I definitely can see how you can get there because right now, even with like big tech companies, I am former Microsoft, like we were just releasing Copilot to government companies back when last year, just last year, 2025. So it is really hard to like compare and use metrics when you just release something and now you're trying to figure out how this working is constantly being adjusted or, taken back, putting back out there. So I
That's
definitely
right. That's right. I'll tell you what, look at the AI. I watch a lot of football, and the AI commercials running during football, very bizarrely. There's three that struck me. One, your old friends at Microsoft Copilot. There's this guy evaluating linebackers, and I won't make this too sportsy, but he's looking and he says, oh, this guy just ran a 4.5 40. That's amazing. Show me other linebackers who ran a 4.5 40 and had 100 tackles in a season. Boom, boom, boom. And then these images start to pop up. And it narrows down to the guy where they're like, who's most likely to be an all pro in 4 years? They pick the guy and go, there's our guy. I'm like, that really showed the power of AI. Conversely, the next commercial, Claude, loved it.
All right.
It's a bad time to be a problem. Claude solves problems, and they show a bunch of different problems. Then the worst of the bunch was ChatGPT. ChatGPT comes up and it's a kid trying to impress a girl with a pasta recipe. It's like, hey, ChatGPT, I like this girl, but I don't want to be serious. What's a good recipe to cook? And then they show them like, that's the most asinine use of AI I've ever seen in my life. And they have a series of these commercials. A kid wants to do 2 pull-ups. Hey, ChatGPT, how can I do 2 pull-ups by the end of the year? And then it shows it. I'm like, we're burning down trees and wasting water for a kid to figure out how to do 2 pull-ups? Like, oh my God, it drove me crazy. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. AI, all the potential, and you're showing a kid how to do pull-ups and cook pasta for a girl he likes.
That is funny. I have not seen these commercials.
Well, I
I
saw them
honestly,
right one after the other, which made it even worse.
I feel like I only see commercials about health, different health things that are, or like pills, things that are coming out. And what bothers me is like they'll say, hey, this pill's great, it can help you. And then like 5 minutes
Oh,
later, this can cause death, heart attack.
I laugh all the time because the first thing they say in those commercials, do not take elixir, whatever, if
Yeah.
you're allergic to elixir. How the hell would I know if I'm allergic to elixir? It's a brand new drug.
Exactly. It's so those, and I see more of that than like I don't feel like I see a lot of tech commercials, which is interesting, but I don't know.
But Microsoft Copilot, I give a lot of credit. And with back to football, the NFL, Microsoft's a big sponsor, Copilot, and you see the blue pads on the sidelines all the time. They show close-ups of the quarterback working with their coach on a Microsoft tablet. That is brilliant marketing because it makes it real for regular consumers to go, oh, AI is not scary. It's not replacing me. It's just adding some really cool analytics. I
Yeah.
think, look, I'll be the first to dog Microsoft about a lot of shit, but this they do very well on
Like,
this.
are there any specific goals that you would like to see reached in these next 6 to 12 months?
Yes, we're working on a consortium called CODA, CODA. And basically, it's to get banks to recognize the need for tokenized deposits, right? And so, what we're working towards is to get large banks, what's called GSIBs, global systematic important banks, to look at and work together so that they can deliver a better tokenized platform. Bringing it back to your subject du jour of AI, once you get money tokenized, it is now programmable. Once it's programmable, you can now overlay AI to make it do things. Here's a great example. Let's say you're a bank in Australia and you want to ship 100 bales of hay to China.
Mhm.
Well, you can put an IoT sensor in that hay and have it track the GPS location, the humidity level, the unit count. So when it gets to the dock in China, it can send a signal IoT to the cloud that says 100 bales arrived, below 5% humidity, it arrived on date, now release payment, right? You automate that with AI that says, yes, the bank account has enough funds. Yes, this is the right recipient. Yes, this is the right sender. Yes, this is the right bank. Yes, this is the right tracking number. Go, right? That is super powerful because these systems today are very manual, very paper intense. And when you make via a tokenized platform like Remark, when you make money programmable, you can do anything.
Wow. And what would you say has been like or will be, maybe you haven't come across a challenge yet, but what do you see is your biggest challenge to reaching this goal?
Inertia, to be quite honest. And I've worked in large banks. I was Citi, I was First Data, I was Huntington Bank, all great organizations. They're highly regulated. And so they've developed this nervousness about moving where they will use regulatory overhang as an excuse to not do something. The fact
Hmm.
is, the regulators want programmable money. We've talked to the Fed, we've talked to the regulators. They love programmable money because it takes the human element of idiocy and fraud out of it for the most
Yeah.
part, right? There can still be fraud with AI, there can still be fraud with tokenization. But what it does is it makes it visible, programmable, and transparent.
Yeah.
And money movement needs transparency. That's what tokenization delivers. When you overlay that with programmability, it's super powerful.
And I know you mentioned prior that how AI has been used in different industries and aspects. Can you share any success stories that you are proud of currently of like using AI in your industry personally, or again, it doesn't have to do anything with AI, but just like any success stories in your industry that you have that you want to share.
So it's generic, so I'm not going to name names here, but AI is now capable, and again, I'm going to focus on B2B for a moment. In the world of B2B, there's a big issue in manufacturing, and manufacturing is kind of front page news now, supply chain, et cetera. There is an ability, and people are starting to, let me be clear, it's not finished, it's not done, but people are starting to use AI to calculate and predict working capital requirements. I started my career as manufacturing treasurer, CFO. And basically, the problem is Q4, fourth quarter, October, November, December, you have to buy a bunch of materials to build. Well, you pay for that with money that's going to be coming in January, February, March. That gap, working capital, that
Yeah.
gap for small business and mid-sized businesses in America is horrific because you get paid 90 days after you build, but you have to buy materials 30 to 60 days before you build. That's 120 plus days of your money sitting idly. What AI is allowing to do, and there are platforms doing this, you
Mhm.
can now predict, well, if we sell $100 million worth of goods, it costs us 38 million to make it. That gap we need to collect in what's called DSO or days sales outstanding. We need to collect 30 days faster. And you can predict that. And then you can go get a working capital loan or you can sell assets or whatever you need to do to balance that. And these are all things that were done by spreadsheets. There's a long-standing joke of, America's economy, creaky, da, da, everything on Excel. Everything is held up by Excel.
Yeah.
I worked on a project years ago where there was a bank that maxed out Excel. I didn't even know this was possible. They had a very interesting business where they aged products like wine, cheese, things that get more valuable as they age, and they tracked it all through bonded warehouses and an Excel spreadsheet. They came to us because they said the spreadsheet's at its maximum. We have to, they literally turned down new business because
Hmm.
Excel had maxed out. These are the kind of things that happen underneath the covers behind the scenes that we all don't see. But these are things that tokenization, AI, data tools can absolutely address and actually grow the market.
Yeah. Yeah. That was it's a very, very good example.
Yeah, crazy, right? I'd never, and I've been in finance for years. I'd never thought about bonded warehouses with aging products, cheese, and they had a contract with a large cheese manufacturer. It was billions of
AI.
dollars.
Are you specifically currently using AI in Remark? Or if not,
Yes,
why have you chosen not to?
well, absolutely. And I'll address this from two aspects. One, I just made a shift at the end of the year. I have a tendency at the end of the year to question everything, shake the etches, sketch as I call it. So I looked at my whole personal tech stack, and that included ChatGPT. And I
Hmm.
started to read that actually Gemini was a better choice. So I'm now using Gemini with Notebook LLM as my
Hmm.
personal AI tool,
Yeah.
much better than ChatGPT. And not just because ChatGPT has stupid commercials, but because I actually find it better. And for anyone who's wondering what personal tools to use, cannot recommend enough Gemini plus Notebook LLM. The way it organizes data, the way it feeds back, absolutely powerful tool. With that said, I know bankers who are not allowed to access from their work computers any LLM.
Mm.
Sounds extreme at first, and it does hold banks back. But what you have to consider is this. If I put something into Chat GPT and it gets into the public domain and I work for a bank, that's a really bad day at the office, right?
Yeah.
Nobody knows about the privacy yet or how to put firewalls around all of this. We'll figure that out as we go forward. And banks will absolutely use AI, but banks are cautious and not unfounded. It's not unfounded for a bank to be cautious about their data getting out in the public domain.
So, what are you, for our viewers who are watching who may also be in the same industry or role as you, specifically, what does that look like when you're using Gemini, Notebook LM? Like, what are some examples of certain things that you may use it for?
So I use it, and this is very specific to me, and I know other people don't. I only use it for research. I don't use it to write. I do my own writing, and there's a lot, and we're both on LinkedIn pretty active. There's a lot of AI slop on LinkedIn that just it's going to eventually disappear. Like any new technology, it gets abused till we figure it out. I am not a big fan of people who use AI to write things
Mm.
because and I'm not smart enough or observant enough to go, oh, this was AI, this is human written. I don't know, but I think over time we're going to be able to tell the good from the bad. There's a comedian who I like who really summed it up best. He said AI is like a cover band. It can do a really good rendition of your favorite song. It cannot write your favorite song. And I think that to me sums up what AI is good at and not good at. It can research, it can collate, it can even put context around things, but it cannot, in my opinion, actually create true masters of art or work.
AI, but where do you believe leaders should focus their efforts in using AI the most?
Where are they or where should they?
Where should they? Like, in your
Okay.
opinion, where
I'll
should
go
they?
back to my original point. Please go into your data center. Please figure out your data schematics. Please figure out your data structures and flows. Then overlay AI on that. I think too many people, and I saw this at Citi, and I don't mean it derisively, but a C-level would read an article in the Wall Street Journal back in the day. They'd ride the train from Connecticut to New York. By the time they got to their desk, you'd have an email waiting for you. Hey, what are we doing about RPA, robotic process automation, or whatever the current buzzword was? I think a lot of what we see today is that executives going, hey, I saw a commercial at the Super Bowl for AI. We should do AI. Air
Hmm.
quote. Like, what do you mean we should do AI? Automation or actual AI? Because AI is decision making. Automation is just if then statements, right? They're both valid, they're both useful, but understanding your data first. And then is this just automation or is it actually AI? Are you ready for an agent to make a decision for you on procuring $100,000 worth of screws and bolts for your factory? Or do you just want analytics to tell you, here's how many screws and bolts we need, here's what they'll cost, here's our working capital requirements? Those are very different. And I think people get very confused. It's easy to say AI today. And people say, oh, we should tokenize that. Okay, what do you mean? And what's the outcome you want? I used to tell my kids when they were young, when you use words, think about the outcome you want from those words. So when
Hmm.
you're an executive and you say, I want AI, okay, what is the outcome you're looking for?
I think that's great. That's great advice for people, leaders in the industry right now who are debating whether or not they should get
Right.
adopt AI, experiment, say no.
Right. Well, it's one thing to be buzzword compliant. It's another to actually fix your underlying business issues. And I'll go back to a point I make with founders and big companies all the time. What's the use case? What are you solving for? What's the problem? I advise a lot of startups, both paid and non-paid. But when I
Hmm.
meet founders, I'm like, what's the problem you're solving? And if they can't identify that, I'm like, you're not fungible. You're not going to be successful till you identify very specifically a problem you solve. And further, does AI or tokenization or whatever new tech you look at, does it 10x solve it? Any less than 10x, it's not worth changing. America, we still write checks. You know why? Because they work.
Yeah, that's true. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. And that's all the questions I have for you today. Dion, did you want to share anything with our listeners or viewers before we go?
Yeah, real quick, the last thing I'd say is picture a spectrum of here's AI decision making, here's automation, pushing buttons, making things faster, easier. On that spectrum is where you want to think through it. If automation fixes the underlying problem and solves the use case, just do automation. If actually context and decision making and further down the road knockoff outcomes are important, then you can absolutely look at AI. But start with a good data layer, start with a good data structure, and then look at automation to AI spectrum and find where you need to put that lever as yes, this is automation, this is AI, this is a little bit of both, right? And I think don't knee jerk into AI because AI is expensive. It's expensive to operate, expensive to set up, expensive to build. And if you get it wrong, it's expensive to unwind, right? Do a lot of experiments. It's now 2026 is the time to test, iterate, experiment, apply it, and just look at all the solutions out there. Test, iterate, test, iterate. By 27, you should have a great data strategy, a great AI strategy, a difference between automation and AI.
Today's conversation highlights that while AI technology continues to evolve rapidly, real impact comes from thoughtful leadership, clear strategy, and intentional execution. To our listeners, I hope this discussion sparked ideas you can apply within your own organization. I'm your host, Jakaya. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to continuing this conversation in our next episode.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, please feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel for future episodes and insights. You can also follow me on social media for more AI insights, real-life moments of motherhood and entrepreneurship. I'm Mom Boss J, that's MOMBOSSJAY, on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. I'd love to connect with you there. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you on the next episode.